What if the real difference between those who win once and those who win forever isn't talent, luck, or timing, but consistency? Steady, daily effort sharpens your mind, strengthens your habits, and compounds your success. Because it's not about intensity, it's about repeatability. When you keep going, even when no one is watching, that's where power is forged. Stay sharp, stay in motion. That's how champions are built, and legacies are born. In a few moments, I'll teach you how to master consistency so you keep going, stay sharp, and win forever. You don't need more time, you need more rhythm. You often believe success requires massive stretches of free time, hours, days, whole weekends. But greatness has never belonged to those who wait for perfect conditions. It belongs to the man who builds rhythm into his life, daily, deliberate, disciplined rhythm. Because what builds a legacy is not occasional greatness, but consistent performance. And rhythm is what makes the ordinary become extraordinary over time. You don't grow a mighty oak by pouring a gallon of water once a month. You water it daily. Small, steady effort, stacked without fail. How do you build this rhythm? You set your hour. You protect your time. You move even when you don't feel like it. You don't negotiate with excuses. You become a man of action, not feeling. A man of timing, not delay. Picture this. A man with only 1 hour a day. He lights his lamp before dawn, same time every morning. His neighbors sleep, but he builds. Word by word, thought by thought, brick by brick. Months pass, and suddenly they call him a genius. But you know the truth. He wasn't gifted. He was consistent. So ask yourself, do you need more time? Or do you need to honor the time you already have? What could your life become if you claim the first hour of each day with sacred intensity? The man who keeps going always wins. It's not always the fastest man who wins the race. Often, it's the one who simply never stops running. You've seen it. Talented men who start strong, then vanish. While the quiet worker, steady and focused, becomes the one who lasts. Why does this matter? Because most people collapse under monotony. They crave inspiration but reject repetition. But greatness lives inside repetition. You become unbeatable, not when you're brilliant, but when you're unbreakable. You become this man by deciding that your steps matter more than your sprints. You stop chasing moments of magic and start crafting hours of mastery. You commit to your goal even when no one watches, even when results come slow. Now imagine two craftsmen. One waits for motivation, the other shows up every morning, sharpens his tools, and gets to work. Days blur, progress is slow, but then the second man's name starts circulating. People say, he's talented. No, he's consistent. Which one are you becoming? Are you waiting to feel ready, or are you building regardless? The one who keeps going wins not just the race, but the respect. And respect, earned over time, is a currency far more valuable than applause. Sharpen daily or grow dull without knowing every blade, no matter how finely crafted, loses its edge when left untouched. And your mind, your most powerful weapon, is no different. It does not stay sharp out of loyalty. It does not wait frozen in excellence. It dulls, not in loud, obvious ways, but quietly, subtly, silently, until one day you reach for your edge and it's gone. You may think you're maintaining your level just by cruising, but life doesn't offer stillness, only motion. You are either sharpening or sliding. There is no pause button in the pursuit of mastery. This is why daily sharpening is not optional, it's essential. Because the world doesn't wait, and success never rewards the man who shows up late to readiness. It rewards the one who stays ready, the one who does the invisible work before the visible battle, the one who trains not for applause, but for advantage. Daily refinement is not a grand event. It is not fireworks or fanfare. It is quiet and consistent. You read a page of a book and wrestle with the idea. You revise your goals, you reflect, you revisit a skill, you ask better questions. It doesn't look heroic, but it is, because it's deliberate, and from that deliberation comes strength. Think of the old warrior, the one who rises before the sun. He doesn't know if battle will come today, but he polishes his sword anyway, tests its balance, sharpens the edge. Because when that call comes, he will not stumble. He will swing with precision, not panic. The same is true for your mind, your spirit, your talent. You cannot afford to wait until life tests you to begin preparing. You must already be prepared. That is how you rise when others fall. That is how you act when others freeze. Look around you. How many men are living off yesterday's strength, off an old reputation, off talent they haven't touched in years? They don't realize the edge is dulled. They don't feel the slide until it's too late. And the moment comes where sharpness was needed but no longer exists. But you can choose differently. You can ask yourself, have I sharpened today? Not in a grand way, but in any way. Did you stretch your mind? Did you reinforce a habit? Did you question your weaknesses? Did you prepare? Because every action of sharpening, no matter how small, builds a reserve, a mental armory. And when the storms come, and they will, you will not scramble. You will respond. Clean, calm, sharp. So don't wait for the fight to find you. Sharpen now, quietly, daily, relentlessly. Your edge is your responsibility. Keep it ready. Your results are boring before they become brilliant. The beginning is quiet, awkwardly quiet. You rise early, you work late, you write the sentence, lift the weight, speak the idea, and nothing happens. No applause, no acknowledgement, no visible proof that what you're doing is working. And that silence, that's where most men quit. Because we've been taught that results should come quickly, that effort should be followed by reward. But the truth? In the early days, effort is invisible. It hides beneath the surface. It builds roots before it shows fruit. You plant the seed, but nothing breaks the soil. You post the video, and no one watches. You launch the idea, and it falls flat. You give your best, and the world doesn't even blink. But this is the test. This is where it's decided who will rise and who will retreat, because results don't shout at first. They whisper. They test your faith. They ask, can you keep showing up without applause? Can you stay consistent when the scoreboard says 0? Most can't. They stop digging just before they strike gold. They pull the plug on the project when it's 1 inch from blooming. Why? Because they can't stomach the silence. But you must be different. You must learn to listen to the silence and understand what it really means. It means you're early, not wrong, not failing, just early. So how do you stay the course when no one's watching? You keep records, not of wins, but of work. You track your consistency. You celebrate the showing up, the attempt, the discipline. You anchor your worth in the process, not the praise. And you embrace the law of compounding. You understand that today's unseen effort is tomorrow's breakthrough. Like the farmer in spring, he doesn't dig up his seeds in doubt. He doesn't quit watering just because the field still looks empty. He knows what's happening beneath the surface. Roots are forming, foundations are being laid, and when the moment comes, the green will explode, not because he did more, but because he didn't quit. Can you handle that kind of boredom? The kind that feels like spinning your wheels with no movement? Can you keep pouring water into the ground when nothing rises to thank you for it? If you can, you are already rare, and if you persist, you will become unstoppable, because every man wants the fruit, but few are willing to wait for the roots. So stay steady. Show up, plant again, water again, and let the silence prove your strength. The sprout is coming. Build before you're ready, or you'll never begin. The world is filled with men who waited. They waited for clarity, for courage, for the timing to feel just right. They waited for approval, for savings to pile up, for signs to arrive from above or from within. And now, years later, they are still waiting, trapped in the same cycle, wiser perhaps, but no closer. Because readiness is a myth, a sedative dressed in reason. It lulls men to sleep and whispers, not yet. But the truth is this, you don't become ready before the leap, you become ready by leaping. Why must you begin now? Because motion breathes life into vision. Action creates momentum, and momentum births belief. Confidence isn't something you're given, it's something you earn. Each small step, each unfinished attempt, each broken try, it all becomes evidence, and evidence turns into power. You do not think your way into courage, you act your way into it. There will never be a day when all the lights turn green. Never a moment where the fears vanish completely. Never a time where the inner critic stays quiet long enough for peace to take hold. You must go anyway. You must walk into the wind, not wait for it to settle. Because the man who waits for perfect becomes perfectly nothing. You start where you are, with what you have. You write with broken pencils. You train with rusty tools. You speak while your voice still trembles. You build even when you don't yet believe in the strength of your own hands. Because forward motion, even clumsy, is superior to polished hesitation. Think of a man standing before a rickety wooden bridge. It sways with every gust. The boards creak beneath the weight of possibility. Behind him stands a crowd of cautious souls, all waiting for the storm to pass. But storms don't wait, neither does destiny. And so he steps, slowly at first, not because he's fearless, but because he refuses to be ruled by fear. Every footstep is a declaration. I will not live on the shore of hesitation. He reaches the other side, not because the bridge was safe, but because he was willing to cross. And when he reaches the other side, he doesn't wave from afar. He builds a better bridge for those behind him. His courage becomes their compass. His motion becomes their map. Are you that man? Or are you still waiting for more money, more skill, more time, more applause? Are you waiting for silence from your doubts before you speak, for comfort before you act, for guarantees before you dare? Because the truth is harsh but freeing. You become the man you seek by moving now, not later. You don't outgrow fear, you outpace it. You don't wait for strength, you build it in motion. And you don't stumble into your calling by chance, you walk into it by choice. The longer you wait, the heavier hesitation becomes. But the moment you leap, even unprepared, you shatter the illusion of perfect timing. You learn to swim only after you dive. So ask yourself, right now, are you waiting for conditions to change? Or are you ready to become the kind of man who builds in the storm? Because destiny has no patience for the man who delays, but it rewards the one who dares. Move before the world forgets you waited. Discipline is the silent engine of destiny. You've seen them. Men bursting with ambition. Their words are bold, their dreams are massive, their visions grand enough to stir a crowd. But when you look closer, something's missing. Something essential. They've got desire, but no discipline. And without discipline, even the brightest dreams dim. Without it, your vision becomes vapor. Hope turns into haze. You talk of the life you want, but you never touch it, because you lack the daily fire to bring it into form. Discipline is not the kind of fire that roars in public. It does not demand attention. It does not boast. It builds. Quietly, relentlessly, while the world celebrates comfort and chases convenience, the disciplined man is already moving, already training, already choosing what matters over what tempts. There is a reason why some rise and others stall. It's not luck, it's not talent, it's not even raw intelligence. It's the ability to govern yourself when no one is watching, to become your own commander, to answer to your future, not your feelings. You want to win? Then discipline your time. Turn hours into tools. Turn mornings into tools. Turn mornings into momentum. Discipline your words. Speak less, mean more. Keep your promise, especially the ones you make to yourself. Discipline your habits, because your habits are the architecture of your destiny. Each action is a brick, and you are either building a palace or a prison. How do you build this kind of discipline? Through decisions. Not once, but again and again. Every morning when the alarm rings and you rise without complaint, that's a decision. Every time you say no to the easy road without needing anyone to applaud you, that's a decision. When you do the thing that must be done, especially when you don't feel like doing it, that's where greatness is born. Discipline is not a single act. It's a system, a rhythm, a way of life. It's brushing your teeth even when you're tired. It's showing up for your goals when your motivation has disappeared. It's preparing the soil even when the harvest is far away. That's what separates those who try from those who build. Picture a man. Every morning he wakes at 5, not because he has to, but because he wants to. He's on a mission. No one sees this. No one cheers for him. He moves through his routine in silence. But make no mistake, a fortress is rising, one repetition at a time, 1 hour at a time. His progress is invisible today, but soon people will look up and ask, how did he do it? And he will know he did it in the hours they all wasted, because success does not come in a flash. It comes in fragments, stacked one over another. Repetition is the real revolution, and routine is the forge in which destiny is shaped. So ask yourself, what are you building in your quiet hours? While others sleep in, are you preparing? While others watch TV, are you studying? While others complain, are you creating? Or are you still waiting for motivation to carry you, not realizing that discipline is the true engine of progress? You do not rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your discipline. And that is both a warning and a gift, because it means your future is not determined by fate or talent. It's determined by what you choose to repeat. In the end, no one will remember your ideas. They'll remember your impact. And impact is made by those who are consistent, who keep going, who rise again and again, while the world offers 1,000 excuses. This is your edge, your power. Your discipline is your differentiator. In a world full of noise, it makes you silent and unstoppable. So now, the question remains, are you letting the world shape you, or are you shaping yourself? Brick by brick, in the fire of your own routine. Because your future is being built. The only question is, by who? The man who trusts his path walks further doubt as a thief, but not the kind that announces its arrival with noise and drama. No, doubt works quietly. It slips into your mind before the day even begins. It doesn't steal with force, it steals with questions. Little ones, persistent ones, the kind that make you pause when you should be moving, the kind that make you second-guess what you once felt deeply. It takes your best hours, not by stopping your body, but by weakening your belief. And soon, your fire dies before the day gets a chance to begin. You've felt it. You've stood at the edge of a good idea and let doubt pull you back. You've crafted plans, only to watch them collect dust, because you questioned your own ability to carry them out. And so days pass, then months, then years, not for lack of ambition, but for lack of trust. Because here's the truth. Talent is nothing without trust in yourself, and doubt will always delay what you were meant to start. But there's something stronger than doubt, something deeper, and that is trust. Not in guarantees, but in your direction. Not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of purpose. Trust is not blind. It sees the difficulty ahead, it sees the obstacles and the unknowns, and it keeps moving anyway. Because the man who trusts his path walks farther than the man who questions every step. You don't build that trust by thinking positively or waiting for inspiration. You build it through movement. You build it every time you follow through on your own word. Every time you do what you promised, even when no one is watching. Even when it's hard, you reinforce the message that you are someone worth believing in, and that belief becomes your foundation. Over time, something begins to shift. You no longer hope that you're capable. You no longer wish you could be the kind of man who follows through. You know it because you've watched yourself do it again and again and again. You've made a habit out of action. You've replaced hesitation with momentum. You've shown up enough times to make trust the natural response, not the exception. It doesn't matter if the rewards haven't come yet. It doesn't matter if the world hasn't noticed. The change is happening inside, and that change, the strengthening of your own trust, is what will carry you through seasons when nothing else will. Imagine a traveler on a long and grueling journey up a mountain. The path is steep, The air grows thin. The fog is so dense at times he can barely see more than a few feet ahead, and yet he continues. He doesn't question the mountain's summit every few steps. He doesn't demand a new map just because the terrain is rough. He walks, he rests, he walks again. And with each step, his belief in the peak grows stronger, not because he sees it, but because his feet keep carrying him forward. You must become that man. You must move as though the destination exists, even when it's hidden. You must act as though your mission is real, because it is. If you wait to believe until everything is clear, you'll never move, and if you stop to reevaluate your path every time it gets hard, you'll never arrive. Trust is not a luxury, it is a requirement. Without it, you remain stuck, trapped between who you are and who you could be. But when you develop it, when you make yourself trustworthy through consistent action, you unlock a kind of quiet power. You stop seeking validation. You stop explaining yourself. You simply go. So now the question stands before you. Do you trust the road you've chosen? Or do you sabotage your progress with endless second guessing? Do you walk like a man on a mission, or like one who is still waiting for permission to begin? The man who trusts his journey walks further. Not because the road is easier, but because he no longer doubts that every step counts. Trust the climb, even when it's steep, even when it's lonely, even when you can't yet see the summit. Walk like it matters, because it does. When you keep score, you keep growing. A man without a ledger soon forgets his effort. He forgets the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet sacrifices that no one else saw. He convinces himself he's not doing enough, or worse, that he's doing more than he really is. But the truth, without a record, he's just guessing. And a man who guesses his progress walks in circles because he has no compass to guide him forward. Keeping score isn't vanity, it's clarity. It doesn't make you obsessed with numbers, it makes you honest. A ledger is not for the world to see, it's for you to face. You don't keep track to impress, you keep track to adjust. Because success isn't found in trying hard, it's found in refining what you try. And refinement begins with measurement. Every man has felt the fog, that vague, frustrating sense that he's spinning his wheels, working hard but going nowhere. It's easy to fall into that trap when you have no proof of progress. But when you start recording your efforts, your time, your habits, your results, you create a map of where you've been, how far you've come, and where you need to improve. You start simply. You get a notebook, not a fancy app, not a tool that distracts you with bells and charts, just a plain book. You open it and you begin to write. Today, 3 hours focused work, 10 pages read, 1 workout complete, promise kept, wake up at 5 a.m. You don't judge, you don't embellish, you just write the truth. And over time, that truth becomes your foundation. Because the moment you begin tracking, you stop lying to yourself. No more illusions of discipline when the numbers say otherwise. No more pretending you're stuck when the pages prove you're growing. The gaps appear, and so does the growth. You gain power, not from perfection, but from precision. You stop working blindly and start working intentionally. Imagine a mason building a wall. Each day he lays bricks, not a wall that others can see yet, just brick after brick. If he doesn't count them, if he never steps back to measure, the process feels endless. He feels behind, incomplete. But when he counts, when he sees that wall rising inch by inch, that knowledge becomes fuel. He realizes that progress, though slow, is real, and what's real gives him reason to return tomorrow. Your ledger is your mirror, and mirrors don't lie. When you skip your routine, the blank space on the page reminds you. When you show up day after day, the filled lines prove it. It becomes harder to quit when your own history is staring back at you, page after page of effort. And that history becomes your momentum. It reminds you of what you've built and what still remains. But too many men walk away too early, not because they failed, but because they didn't see how far they had come. They never kept score, so their effort faded into fog. The wall was halfway built, but they turned back. thinking nothing had changed? What if your next breakthrough is 1 page away, 1 more day, 1 more set, 1 more session of focused work, but you give up because you never measured how close you truly were? Keeping a ledger makes your progress visible, and what you can see, you can strengthen. You start learning your patterns. You notice what days you win, what hours you thrive, what habits work and which ones don't. You become a strategist, not just a worker, and it's not about perfection, it's about presence, about showing up to your own life with awareness, not assumptions. That awareness sharpens your decisions, and sharpened decisions change your direction. So ask yourself now, have you been keeping track, or have you let your work disappear into forgetfulness? Have you built a habit of documentation, or have you relied on memory, hoping it would carry the weight of your ambition? Because you don't rise by accident. You rise brick by brick, decision by decision, line by line. Write it down, measure it, honor it. Let your ledger be your quiet weapon in a noisy world. And when the day comes where you feel lost, open the book, see the work, remember the climb, and then keep building. Others may stop, you must not most. Men start strong. At the beginning, the fire is fresh, the motivation burns hot, the vision is clear. You see men setting goals, making plans, charging forward with excitement, but life doesn't honor enthusiasm alone. It tests it, it throws storms at it, and soon you start to see who's real, who's committed, who's built to last. The early crowd begins to thin, not because they didn't want it, but because they didn't endure. Hardship doesn't knock politely. It crashes in. It tests your patience, your passion, your persistence. It asks one question: will you keep going when it's no longer exciting? Many don't. They falter. They find someone to blame. They wait for the wind to change. They tell themselves they'll start again when conditions are better. But delay becomes detour, and detour becomes never. But not you. You must not stop, because your pace might be the only one carrying your legacy forward. Your footsteps may be the only ones keeping the road open for those who come behind you. You're not running a race against others. You're fulfilling a calling designed for you. No one else can finish it. No one else will pick it up if you drop it. This path demands more than talent. It demands endurance. You must outlast the noise, outwork the distractions, outperform the doubt that creeps in when you're tired and no one's watching. You must become that man, the one who keeps going when others evaporate, not because it's easy, but because you remember why you began. You don't treat your work like a hobby. You make it a vow. You don't dabble. You devote. This is not optional. This is a commitment. The way a soldier reports for duty, no matter the weather, no matter the fear, you report to your mission. Rain or shine, storm or sun, the work continues, because the work is who you are. Think about the runner on a long, winding road. In the beginning, the crowd is thick. Everyone's full of adrenaline, jokes, smiles, high spirits. But miles later, something shifts. The sun rises higher, the breath shortens, the legs grow heavy. One by one, they slow. They fall back. They stop. Some sit on the roadside, some turn around, and the road gets quiet. But one man keeps running. Not because he feels strong, but because he remembers the finish line. He sees it in his mind, even when it's not in sight. That vision carries him forward. That vision separates him from the rest. Where are you on the road? Have you allowed the fading crowd to affect your pace? Are you moving slower because they did? Have you paused your pursuit simply because others gave up on theirs? This is where most men fall, not because they couldn't win, but because they stopped running. They lost their rhythm. They lost their reason. They waited for company on a path that was never meant to be crowded. The ones who win are not always the fastest. They're the ones who finish. The ones who push through the silence, through the soreness, through the solitude. And here's the truth. The further you go, the lonelier it gets. But that's where your strength is forged. In the lonely mile, in the final laps, in the silent victories that no one else sees. So let the crowd thin, let the noise fade, let others pause if they must, but you keep running. You don't need applause, you don't need company, you need conviction. You need to remember that your mission matters, even if no one else is watching, even if no one else is running beside you. Because your legacy depends not on how loud you start, but on how long you last. The man who endures becomes the man others remember. The man who keeps going becomes the reason others believe. So ask yourself right now, will you be one of many who began, or one of the few who finished? Run, even when it's hard, even when you're alone, even when your breath is short and your legs ache. Run because your purpose is still ahead, and it's waiting for the man who refused to stop. The man who honors his time commands his life. Time is not something you manage, it's something you command. And the man who learns to command it doesn't just get more done, he becomes more. Because time is not just minutes on a clock, it is potential in motion. It is the raw material from which you build your destiny. To waste time is not merely inefficient, it is destructive. It steals not only opportunity, but power. Time, once gone, never returns. There are no refunds, no second drafts, only consequences. Most men treat time like it's infinite. They squander mornings in delay, trade afternoons for distraction, and give their nights to noise. They assume there will always be more, but life doesn't promise more. It promises now, and now is slipping away with every passive choice. That's why the man who honors time, who treats every hour like sacred ground, stands apart. He moves differently, speaks deliberately, chooses wisely, because he knows that what he does with his time is what he becomes. To command your time, you begin by deciding what matters, not vaguely, not someday, but daily. You identify the few actions that move your life forward, and you guard them like trails. You don't just try to work, you carve out hours, like a sculptor-shaped stone. Each block of time is protected, each task measured, each interruption challenged. Every minute spent on purpose builds momentum. It compounds like interest on investment. Small, consistent deposits create something massive over time. But every minute lost to watching TV, reacting, drifting, it subtracts. It weakens your edge, dulls your focus, erodes your ambition. You cannot build a legacy on leftovers. You build it on priority. The path to mastering time begins with discipline. That doesn't mean stuffing your schedule with endless activity. It means deciding in advance what matters and doing it whether you feel like it or not. You establish fixed hours, sacred routines, clear goals. You wake up not just to exist, but to build. You don't just try to work, you carve out hours like a sculptor-shaped stone. Each block of time is protected, each task measured, each interruption challenged. Every minute spent on purpose builds momentum. It compounds like interest on investment. Small, consistent deposits create something massive over time. But every minute lost to watching TV, reacting, drifting, it subtracts. It weakens your edge, dulls your focus, erodes your ambition. You cannot build a legacy on leftovers. You build it on priority. The path to mastering time begins with discipline. That doesn't mean stuffing your schedule with endless activity. It means deciding in advance what matters and doing it whether you feel like it or not. You establish fixed hours, sacred routines, clear goals. You wake up not just to exist, but to build. You create boundaries around your attention. You train your body and mind to respond to your command, not the world's demands. Because here's the truth. The man who responds to every interruption lives in reaction. His day is stolen. One message, one distraction, one pointless meeting at a time. He ends his day wondering where the time went. But the man who protects his schedule, he lives in intention. He finishes his day knowing exactly what was built, what was moved, what was won. Visualize a builder with a blueprint. He has a plan, a timeline, a purpose. As people walk by with opinions, with distractions, with noise, he doesn't adjust his design to please them. He honors the plan. He watches the clock, not in anxiety, but in respect. And when the month ends, his structure stands. Not because he rushed, but because he ruled his time. Now ask yourself, have you been letting time lead you, or are you leading your time? Do you wake with clarity or with confusion? Are your days designed, or are they dictated by whatever shows up? Because time won't slow down for your uncertainty, and it won't wait for you to feel ready. It moves relentlessly, and it respects only the man who respects it. You don't have to be perfect, but you must be precise. Begin small. Set sacred hours for deep work. Define your daily non-negotiables. Silence distractions during your peak focus zones. Say no more often. Watch what happens. You'll feel yourself come alive, not from working harder, but from working clearer. Because when you treat your time like a sacred instrument of your future, it becomes one. Your life takes shape, your confidence returns, your results multiply, not because of luck, but because of leadership. Self-leadership. And it all begins with how you command a single day. So take the clock in your hands, not as a burden, but as a tool. Command it, shape it, honor it, and it will shape you. Mastery belongs to the man who repeats without excuse. Mastery is not magic. It is not a divine gift sprinkled on the lucky few. It is not reserved for the chosen, the prodigies, or the ones born with talent in their veins. Mastery belongs to the man who repeats, who returns to his craft, not for applause, not for attention, not for reward, but because it's his. He owns it. And he knows that excellence is never born in bursts of inspiration. It is born in returning again, again, and again. The man who masters his craft is not necessarily the smartest in the room. Often he is the quietest. While others bounce from passion to passion, from shiny object to shiny object, he digs in. He chooses depth over novelty. He embraces the boredom others run from. While the world praises talent, he learns to praise consistency, because he knows this secret. The world eventually kneels to the man who refuses to stop showing up. Mastery is not doing many things well. It is doing one thing deeply, repeatedly, without distraction, without dilution. It is carving away everything that doesn't matter until only the essential remains. And then doing that essential thing with precision day after day until it becomes second nature, until your hand moves before you think, until your work speaks before you do. You don't chase mastery, you build it. Your repetitions are the bricks, the thousands of times you swing the hammer, write the sentence, lift the weight, play the scale. These are the visible pieces, but it's your silence, your refusal to advertise your journey, your patience with obscurity, that becomes the cement. And holding it all together is your belief. Belief that the process matters, that the basics are enough, that the glory is not found in skipping steps, but in walking every one of them with care. Picture a pianist. He wakes before dawn. He sits before the keys. The room is cold. The light is dim. He begins to play. Not a song, not a performance, but a scale. Over and over. Each finger movement measured. Each note exact. His friends ask why he's not writing new music, why he's not sharing more online, why he's not chasing opportunity, but he keeps returning to the scale. Weeks pass, then months, then years. One day the moment arrives. A full hall, a grand piano, silence, and he plays, not with flash, not with noise, but with depth, the kind that freezes a room, the kind that quiets hearts, the kind that only repetition can teach, not because he was the most gifted, but because he was the most devoted. Now ask yourself, have you repeated your craft enough to earn that moment? Or are you still hoping for shortcuts, still switching lanes every time the road gets hard, still craving novelty instead of embracing necessity? Excellence has never been about speed. It has always been about endurance. The master is not the one who burns brightest, but the one who burns longest, the one who stayed when others quit, the one who fell in love with the mundane because he knew it was the path to the magnificent. To reach mastery, you must stop chasing applause. You must stop waiting to feel ready. You must stop measuring your worth by how much recognition you get. True masters don't need noise. Their work speaks for them. Their silence carries weight. Their hands move with wisdom not born in a day, but carved by years of patient repetition. Are you willing to return to your scale, to your blank page, to your brush stroke? Are you willing to repeat when it's dull, to refine when no one is watching, to keep going not because the world is cheering, but because you've decided this is who you are? Because in the end, it's not the gifted who rise, it's the grounded, the devoted, the ones who do the work, especially when it's not exciting, the ones who stack bricks while others chase castles in the sky. Mastery is not a finish line, it is a practice, a quiet rebellion against distraction, a daily choice to become great by doing the small things well. So return to your work, repeat, refine, and rise, slowly, steadily, unshakably. Resilience is the mark of a man who has decided, ooh. Don't bounce back from life storms because you're naturally strong. You bounce back because at some point you made a quiet, unwavering decision. I will not be broken. That choice doesn't make the pain disappear. It doesn't make the road smooth, but it does make you immovable. Not because your body can't be shaken, but because your mind refuses to collapse. True resilience isn't in your muscles. It's in your mindset. It's the invisible spine you carry into every hard day, the inner steel that bends but never breaks. Resilience isn't some mystical trait handed to the lucky few. It's a skill, a muscle, a way of thinking, and it's earned in the trenches of life, not in the moments when things are going well, but in the moments when nothing makes sense, when your back is against the wall and the world offers you every reason to quit. That's when it's built. That's where it's tested, and ultimately, that's where it's proven. When life comes at you, and it will, you face a fork in the road. You can collapse, or you can construct. The man who collapses lets circumstances shape him. The man who constructs uses those same circumstances to strengthen himself. The difference isn't fate, it's not fortune, it's decision. The day you decide that nothing will make you quit, even pain starts to lose its grip on you. Because pain can only rule the man who hasn't made up his mind. Resilience is built the way strength is built, through resistance. You don't get stronger by avoiding the struggle. You get stronger by choosing it, by facing discomfort on purpose, by stepping into the fire with your eyes open, knowing it's the only way to forge something solid inside yourself. You train your mind to stand even when everything else shakes. You welcome the challenge. You stay in the ring, you take the hits, and you stay upright. You don't flinch. You don't flee. You fight, not with rage, but with resolve. And every time you endure, every time you don't give in, you earn the right to say, I am the kind of man who continues. Picture two men standing side by side, both brought to their knees by life, the same blow, the same setback. One lowers his head and asks, why me? He gives his pain a crown. He lets the hardship become his identity. But the other, he lifts his eyes and says, watch me. He hurts just as much, but he turns that pain into fuel, into focus, into forward motion. And while the first man fades, the second rises, not because it's easy, but because he's decided. The world tries to teach you that resilience is some rare inner fire you're born with. It's not. It's a choice. And the power of that choice is available to every man, every day. You don't need a perfect past. You don't need ideal conditions. All you need is decision, a firm, final commitment that says, I will not be broken. What kind of man are you becoming? Have you made the decision, not the wish, not the hope, but the decision to rise, no matter what? Or are you still waiting for the pain to stop before you move again? Still hoping life gets easier before you give it your all. Let this be your moment of clarity. Resilience begins the moment you decide that quitting is no longer an option. Not just when it's convenient, not when people are watching, but always. Especially when it's silent, especially when it's heavy, especially when your heart says enough and your mind says one more step. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fearless. You need to continue. Decide now, decide clearly, decide finally. and then rise. You become what you schedule. You want to change your life? Don't wait for motivation, don't wait for the right mood, and don't wait for your dreams to carry you. Change your schedule. Because your future isn't built by what you hope for, it's built by what you do. A man is not defined by what he wishes, but by what he repeats. And your routine? That is your real identity, in motion. Men speak of ambition like it's enough. They talk of goals, visions, breakthroughs, but those things are useless without structure. Greatness doesn't arrive by accident. It doesn't knock on your door because you had a good idea. It shows up only when you've made space for it. Time is the currency of achievement, and your calendar is the blueprint. Every man is given 24 hours, no more, no less. But what separates the great from the average is how those hours are treated. Some men waste time like it's infinite, drifting, reacting. Others guard it like treasure. They assign purpose to each hour. They don't wait for the day to define them, they define the day. If you want to rise, you must do the same. You must become ruthless with your time. Not cold, not robotic, but intentional. You wake up with a mission. You structure your hours around what matters most. You build your schedule not around comfort, but around calling. How? By anchoring your day with sacred habits. A time to read, to feed your mind, a time to work without excuse, a time to reflect, to sharpen your awareness and direction. These anchors don't just build productivity, they build identity. They say to the world, this is who I am. This is what I do, no matter how I feel. You begin to live by principle, not preference. Because preference says, I'll do it when I feel like it. But principle says, I'll do it because it's who I am. And that is where transformation begins. That is where a man stops being driven by emotion and starts being driven by intention. Picture a blacksmith. His work is not romantic, it's hot, it's loud, it's repetitive, but every morning he begins at dawn. He lights the forge, he lifts the hammer. He works not when he feels like it, but because the work must be done. His strikes are rhythmic, deliberate, measured, not rushed, not random. And over time, his output is visible, strong, useful, lasting. His power is not in how he feels about the fire, it's in how he shows up to it day after day. Now ask yourself, have you designed your day, or is your day designing you? Are your hours laid out with purpose, or are you just responding to whatever shouts the loudest? If a stranger followed your schedule for 1 week, would they become the man you hope to be? Or would they inherit your distractions, your delays, your drift? Because here's the truth most men ignore. Your schedule is not just a list of things to do. It is a declaration of who you are becoming. Every hour tells a story. Every routine casts a vote for your future self. And if those hours are chaotic, if they are filled with noise, avoidance, or aimlessness, then so will be the man they produce. But when your schedule becomes sacred, when it reflects discipline, clarity, purpose, you begin to transform, slowly, quietly, powerfully. Your days become tools, your life a masterpiece in the making. Change your schedule and you'll change your standard. Change your standard and you'll change yourself. That's how it works. Not overnight, not with dramatic bursts, but with quiet commitment day after day. This is your opportunity. To stop drifting, to start designing, to look at your calendar not as a burden, but as a weapon to fight distraction, excuse, and the slow decay of potential. So go ahead, define your morning, guard your hours, choose your routines with care, to build your day with the same attention a craftsman gives to his workbench. Because the life you want is already waiting inside the day you design. You rise higher when you expect more of yourself. Most men wait. They wait for the world to recognize them, to reward them, to demand more from them. They think pressure from the outside will push them into becoming their best. But greatness doesn't work that way. The secret, the quiet truth that separates the few from the many is this: you must demand greatness from yourself, not later, not once life asks for it, now. High expectations are not a burden. They are a signal, a message to your own soul that says, I am made for more. That voice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, but it's always there, telling you that good enough is not enough, that potential is not purpose unless it's used, that your life doesn't rise to the level of your dreams, it rises to the level of your standards. To raise your life, you must first raise your expectations. You stop settling for average effort. You stop tolerating lazy decisions. You stop hiding behind clever excuses that sound good in the moment, but leave you hollow later. You get brutally honest with yourself. You look in the mirror not to criticize, but to confront. And you say, that is not my best, and my best is what I owe. You do not owe perfection, but you do owe effort, integrity, full attention, because the man who expects more from himself gets more from life, not because the world gives it to him, but because he earns it. Quietly, daily, consistently. This begins with the small choices. The early morning when you rise or sleep in, the extra rep when no one's watching. The choice to rewrite the page, rework the plan, rebuild the structure, not because it's broken, but because it's not your best, and you expect better. That's the difference between those who rise and those who repeat. Picture a carpenter. He's building a home. He works alone. He installs a beam, but notices a slight tilt. It's subtle, invisible to most. He could cover it, paint it, move on, but he doesn't. He tears it down and builds again, stronger, straighter, better, because he sees it, because he knows, because he expects more. That man, the one who holds himself to a higher standard, even when no one else is watching, that man is rare. That man is dangerous because he cannot be bought with praise or broken by silence. His reward is within. It's in the satisfaction of knowing he gave everything, that he lived not by reaction but by principle, that he built something that lasts. So ask yourself, what corners have you been cutting that no one else sees? What moments have you allowed to slip into good enough because they didn't demand more? And the deeper question, do you believe those details matter? Because they do. That is the true measure of a man. Not what he does when he's being judged, but what he chooses when no one would know the difference. You become extraordinary not through public displays of greatness, but through private acts of excellence. You rise not when the world watches, but when you watch yourself. That standard, internal and unshakable, becomes your compass, and soon life begins to mirror it. Opportunities multiply, respect deepens, confidence grows, not because life changed, but because you did. The man who demands greatness from himself is never desperate for approval. He already knows who he is. He's not trying to be impressive. He's committed to being real, to being better, to being true. So decide today. No more lowered bars, no more rationalized laziness, no more hiding behind the fog of, I'm doing my best when you know you're not. Raise the bar and then rise to meet it. The world may not notice right away, but you will. You'll feel the difference in how you walk, speak, work, lead. You'll build momentum not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And over time, others will see the results, but you'll know it was built brick by brick in silence, through standard, through self-respect. You don't wait for greatness, you become it. By choosing it, by expecting it, and by never ever settling for less. Purpose makes pain profitable. Pain is not always punishment. More often it is preparation. It is the pressure that precedes the breakthrough, the chisel that shapes the stone, the fire that purifies gold. But there's a critical distinction you must grasp. Pain without purpose feels like torment. Pain with purpose becomes transformation. This is the difference between despair and development. When you don't know why you suffer, the ache echoes endlessly. But when you attach meaning to the pain, when you assign it purpose, you step into power. Suddenly the suffering becomes sacred. You stop asking, why me? And start declaring, this is molding me. Every great man you admire, whether he stood on a battlefield, a stage, or the pages of history, has walked through fire. But none of them were merely burned by it. They used it. They allowed the flames to refine them, not consume them. They turned heartache into hunger, misfortune into meaning. You must learn to do the same. You must stop fleeing from pain as if it were an enemy. You must learn to face it, study it, and ask it, what are you trying to teach me? Because pain is a messenger. It arrives with sharp lessons wrapped in discomfort. Ignore it, and it repeats. Embrace it, and it transforms you. Think of a sculptor. He stands before a massive, untouched block of stone. With every strike of his hammer and chisel, it appears that he is destroying it. Pieces fly off. The form is battered. The surface is fractured. But this is not chaos. This is creation. The pain of the stone is the price of the sculpture. Without that pain, without that removal of excess, there would be no form, no beauty, no masterpiece. So the sculptor keeps chipping, guided by a vision of what could be. And eventually, where once there was only raw material, now stands a work of art. That is you. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Your pain is not random. It is a signal that you are in process, that your life is under construction. You are being chiseled into something sharper, something stronger. But only if you cooperate with the process. You must stop seeing every setback as sabotage. You must stop seeing every failure as a final sentence. Instead, see them as sacred shaping. Feel the sting, but stay the course. Endure the breaking, but keep building. Let your wounds turn into wisdom. Let your struggle birth strength. Because here's what most men forget. Pain is not permanent, but the lessons it offers can be if you don't run from them. The man who avoids pain becomes soft, fragile, easily broken. But the man who leans into pain, learns from pain, lives through pain, he becomes durable, deep, unshakable. Your pain is asking you a question. Will you let me forge you, or will you flee me? And your answer determines your future. What are you carrying right now? What burden is bruising your back? What loss still aches in your chest? What regret whispers in your ear at night? Don't silence it. Study it. That pain you feel, that might be the cost of your calling. That might be the proof that you're being prepared for more. That might be the exact thing that, when harnessed, gives you a voice, a mission, a purpose. Because pain never leaves you the same. It either destroys or develops you. Choose development. Let the pain sharpen your focus. Let it burn away the excuses. Let it wake you up to the time you've wasted, the choices you've delayed, the dreams you've neglected. Let it ignite you. There is sacred energy in suffering, if you learn to convert it. Think of the coal deep underground, under immense pressure, in total darkness. Over time, it becomes a diamond. That pressure didn't destroy it, it refined it. The coal didn't understand the process, but the process understood the coal. That's you. Your pain may not make sense right now, but that's because you're still in the dark, still under pressure, still becoming. But if you stay with it, if you keep moving, keep believing, keep surrendering to the purpose behind the pain, you will emerge with clarity, character, and a calling carved in stone. So look pain in the eye and say, you're not stopping me, you're shaping me. And then let it do its work. 1 hour of focus is worth more than 10 hours of distraction. Most men are moving constantly, but getting nowhere. They fill their hours with calls, checklists, conversations, and constant motion. They feel busy, exhausted, even proud of their effort. But at the end of the day, nothing substantial has moved. The wheels have spun, but the road hasn't been traveled. This is the great illusion, confusing motion with progress. The modern world rewards those who react quickly, but greatness is never reactive. It is built in solitude, in silence, and above all, in focus. Not partial focus, not fragmented attention, but deep, undivided, deliberate effort toward a clear direction. And that doesn't take a lifetime. It takes 1 hour. 1 solid hour of uninterrupted work each day, done with purpose and intensity, can move mountains while the rest of the world chases dust. The man who understands this truth becomes dangerous because he no longer needs the perfect day, the perfect mood, or the perfect setup. He just needs that 1 hour. And when he claims it, guards it, and shows up to it with intention, he gains what others are still searching for: momentum. While they spread their energy across distractions, he condenses his into a single beam that cuts through everything in its way. This is how transformation begins, not in endless hustle, but in focused stillness. When you train yourself to sit with one task, ignore the pull of, silence the world's demands, and give everything you have to one thing, you tap into a different kind of power. It's not loud, it's not exciting, but it's real, and real work over time compounds into greatness. Picture the writer who wakes before the world. The room is dim, the house is silent. He lights a lamp, pours a cup of coffee, and opens his notebook. For the next hour, he writes. No distractions, no excuses, just words, page after page, morning after morning. Nothing earth-shattering happens on any single day. But a few months later, the book is done, and the world sees genius. What they don't see is the quiet hour behind it, the hour he protected like treasure. That's what you must create. Your own sacred hour. Not because you feel inspired, not because you have free time, but because your dream deserves that level of respect. If your goal is worth chasing, it's worth carving out that focused hour. And not just once, but every day. Repetition is where power lives. You may say you're too busy, but ask yourself, busy doing what? How many hours have been lost to scattered thinking, half-finished tasks? How many days have slipped through your hands because your mind was in too many places at once? The answer is not more time. It's better use of time. And it begins with the discipline to claim 1 hour, to close the door, to mute the noise, to let the world wait. Because in that hour, you don't just work, you become. You shape your future, you refine your thinking, you build a reputation with yourself that says, I follow through. Something powerful happens when you make that commitment. Your mind learns to enter deeper states faster. Distractions lose their grip. You stop chasing the feeling of productivity and begin producing actual results. You realize you don't need motivation, you need intention. And once that hour becomes a habit, the results begin to speak for themselves. Over time, you change, not just what you accomplish, but who you are. You become sharper, calmer, more capable. You stop wasting energy on 100 things and start winning in the one area that matters most to your mission. This is how leaders are built, not through chaos, but through calm concentration, not in bursts, but in rhythm. One focused hour a day can change your income, your health, your influence, your legacy, but only if you protect it like it matters, because it does. In a world addicted to motion, the man who masters stillness, who learns to go deep while others stay shallow, becomes unstoppable. So the question is no longer, do you have time? The question is, will you give your hour the respect it deserves? Because if you do, everything else will rise to meet it. Your character is forged when no one is watching. You want to be trusted, respected, followed? Then forget the performance. Forget the applause. Forget the curated version of yourself you show to the world. If you want real respect, not the shallow kind that vanishes in absence, but the deep, unshakable kind that endures, you must begin with the man you are when no one is watching. That is your true self. Not the one polished for public approval, not the one edited for social acceptance, but the one who makes decisions in silence, the one who chooses in secret. That version of you, unseen, uncelebrated, unfiltered, is the foundation of your character. Character isn't built in the spotlight, it's built in the shadows. It is born in the dark, in the lonely moments when there's no audience, no claps, no punishment, and no reward. Only a choice, right or easy, honest or comfortable, finish or forget, rise or roll over. These are the moments that shape you. Because when you do the right thing in private, when you put in effort that no one will applaud, fix mistakes no one will find, or tell the truth when lying would be easier, you are forging something far greater than an image. You are forging character. And character is the only real currency of trust. Reputation is how others see you. Character is who you actually are, and the man who has character never needs to beg for trust. People feel it in his presence. This character is not built in grand gestures. It's built in small, quiet habits. It's in putting things back where they belong, in keeping your word even when it costs you, in choosing to show up even when quitting would go unnoticed. It's in doing the job right, not just when someone is watching, but especially when they're not. These acts may seem trivial, but they aren't. They're everything, because they tell your soul, I can be counted on. And when your soul believes you, others eventually do too. Picture a man in a dusty workshop. He's alone. No one will ever see this piece of work. And yet, he finds a mistake, a flaw so small no one else would notice. He pauses. He could let it go. No one would blame him. But instead, he rolls up his sleeves and fixes it. Not because someone told him to, but because something inside him requires it. That's the man who becomes a leader, not because he declared it, but because he proved it, quietly, when no one was watching. That's where real strength begins. That's where leadership is born, not from title, not from followers, but from a long line of silent victories over laziness, dishonesty, and mediocrity. So ask yourself, when the room is empty, when the praise is gone, when the test comes quietly, who are you? Are you the man who cuts corners when he can? Who speaks half-truths to avoid discomfort? Who pretends when pressure arrives? Or are you the man who stands tall, even when it hurts? Who acts with integrity, even in the shadows? That answer defines your life. Because no matter how good you are at pretending, eventually the truth will surface. Life will press you. Crisis will come. And in those moments, you won't have time to fake it. You will only rise as high as your habits. You will only lead as far as your integrity stretches. You will only be trusted as much as your private decisions deserve. There's no shortcut to this. You can't talk your way into trust. You live your way into it. So start with your small decisions. Start by catching yourself in the moments no one else sees. Start by asking, what kind of man do I want to become? And then act like that man, even if no one ever notices. Because eventually, someone will. And more importantly, you will. You'll look in the mirror and meet a man you respect, a man you trust, a man you don't have to pretend to be, because you've earned him. And that is the beginning of everything. Success lives in the mundane, not the miraculous. It's easy to admire greatness when it's shining, when the speech flows effortlessly, when the product is polished, when the victory is obvious. The world loves a finished masterpiece. It claps for the man on stage, for the result that gleams. But what the world doesn't see are the early mornings, when the body is tired, but the work still gets done. It doesn't see the 1,000 boring repetitions, the quiet sacrifices, the battles won in silence before the spotlight ever finds him. That's where true success lives, in the hidden hours. In the repetition, no one celebrates. The man who wins over time isn't seduced by novelty. He doesn't need a new challenge every week. He's not chasing inspiration like a child chasing butterflies. He's not addicted to change. He is committed to consistency. He becomes excellent not because he moves fast, but because he moves steadily. Day after day, he sharpens the same tools, walks the same path, repeats the same actions until mastery is inevitable. There is a quiet power in the man who is loyal to his process. While others crave stimulation, he finds satisfaction in doing what needs to be done. He eats the same meals that fuel his body. He follows the same schedule that keeps his mind focused. He resists the urge to deviate simply for the sake of entertainment, because he understands something most never do. Repetition is not boredom. Repetition is discipline in motion. Success doesn't belong to the man who works hard when he feels like it. It belongs to the man who shows up when he doesn't. The man who paints the wall even when no one is watching. Who lifts the weight when the gym is empty? Who writes the page even when the words feel stiff? Greatness is not about intensity for a moment. It's about devotion over time. You build this kind of devotion by honoring your process. You stop looking at your daily actions as chores. You start seeing them as rituals, sacred steps that lead you toward your future. You stop trying to skip steps. You stop treating small tasks as if they're beneath you, because in truth there are no small tasks. There are only small attitudes toward the task. Imagine a man sweeping the floor of his shop. To others, he's just cleaning. They see a janitor, they see a routine, but he doesn't. He sees something different. He sees preparation. He sees discipline. He sees order. That clean floor is not just a space, it's a statement. It tells the world, I care, I'm ready, I take pride in everything I touch. That floor reflects his mindset. Now ask yourself, have you grown bored with your basics? Have you started rushing through the small things, hoping to get to the important part? What if the very repetition you've been avoiding is the exact thing that could carry you forward? What if the habits you're tempted to skip are the bridge between your current life and the one you dream about? Every master was once a beginner who didn't quit. Every craftsman was once clumsy with his tools, but he stayed. He didn't abandon the process just because it didn't thrill him. He understood that thrill fades, but skill compounds. And every time he practiced, every time he repeated what others avoided, he built something inside himself that could not be faked. So here's the truth. Success is not a lightning strike. It is a fire built slowly, patiently, with the same movements day after day. The spark may come in a moment, but the flame stays only when you feed it. The question is, are you feeding yours? Or are you letting boredom rob you of progress? Excellence doesn't come from intensity. It comes from endurance, from staying when it's dull, from believing in your process enough to keep going when there's no applause, no rush, no fresh excitement, only the quiet, powerful rhythm of repetition. So respect your basics, sweep your floor, do your work with pride, and understand this: the man who becomes great is the one who honors what others overlook. Because in the end, it's not the glamorous moments that define a life. It's the discipline to keep showing up, especially when it's not glamorous at all. Commitment begins where excitement ends. Everyone is motivated at the beginning. The idea is fresh, the vision is clear, and the excitement feels unstoppable. It's easy to act when energy flows like a river, when the world seems to nod along with your ambition. But that moment, sweet as it is, fades every time. And when it does, only one thing determines whether you keep building or begin breaking: commitment. Motivation is a spark, but commitment is the firewood. It's what keeps the flame alive long after the thrill is gone. Motivation will tell you to start, commitment tells you to continue, especially when it's no longer easy, no longer exciting, and no longer new. And that is where the line is drawn between those who dream of building and those who actually build. You don't succeed because you felt great every day. That's a myth sold by highlight reels. You succeed because you kept going, even when you didn't feel like it, because you woke up tired, distracted, uninspired, and still moved forward. That's what commitment really is, doing the thing regardless of how you feel about it in the moment. And you reinforce that kind of commitment by treating it like a vow, not a casual promise, not a maybe tomorrow, a vow, a sacred decision that isn't open for debate each morning. You don't ask yourself, do I feel like doing this today? You act because you've already decided. You move because you vowed to. There is no waiting, no negotiating, no searching for the perfect mood. Picture a man who begins every morning with a cold plunge. No one forces him, no one claps for him, but every day, without fail, he lowers himself into freezing water, not for pleasure, but for proof. It's a ritual that declares, I command my life, not my comfort, not my feelings, me. The water is always cold. The body never wants it, but he does it anyway because he has decided that feelings are not the compass. Commitment is. That is the mindset you need if you are going to build something that matters. Because life will test you. There will be weeks when your body aches. There will be seasons where nothing works. There will be days when you feel invisible, unmotivated, discouraged, or lost. And in those moments, if you rely on motivation alone, you will fall. You will make excuses. You will delay. You will drift. But if you've built your life on commitment, You won't need to feel strong to act strong. You'll just act. Because commitment is not a feeling, it's a standard, a line drawn in the sand. You honor it because you said you would, and every time you do, you gain power. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that says, I trust myself. That trust becomes everything, because when you start keeping your word to yourself, your life begins to change. Not because things magically become easier, but because you become more stable, more dependable. You stop questioning whether you'll follow through, because you already know the answer. The people who win in the long run don't always move the fastest, but they always keep moving. They understand that storms will come, that boredom will arrive, that the novelty will wear off, but they don't flinch, they don't fold, they don't surrender their standards to their emotions. So ask yourself, are you living off motivation or off commitment? What do you lean on when the fire dies down? What carries you when nothing is exciting, when the path gets hard, when the progress feels slow? That's the test. When the applause is gone, when the results are delayed, when the doubts creep in, what remains? That is what separates those who wish from those who win. So choose to be the man who decides once and then honors that decision daily. Choose to treat your commitment like sacred ground. Don't touch it with hesitation. Don't question it every morning. Just act. Just move. Just keep showing up. Because the truth is this, when motivation dies, your commitment must rise, and if you've built your life on that, on routine, on resolve, on personal vows, then no feeling, no failure, no fear can stop you. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to remember your vow. You don't need permission to begin, only courage. Many men spend their best years waiting for the right moment, the right feeling, the right words from someone else to tell them, now is your time. They wait for support, for encouragement, for signs from the world that it's okay to begin. And in that waiting, years pass, opportunities fade, and worst of all, confidence withers. Because nothing grows in hesitation, and nothing changes until you decide, I'm starting now. There is a dangerous myth that says you need to be ready before you act, that you need permission, applause, a guarantee that things will work out. But those are illusions. The men who build meaningful lives do not wait for the world to open the door. They build their own. They understand that action births clarity, that the first step doesn't need a map, only courage. And here's the truth. This courage isn't loud. It's not reckless. It doesn't show up in grand gestures or dramatic announcements. It doesn't always shout, watch me. More often it whispers, I may not know the whole path, but I'm taking the next step. It's quiet, steady, rooted. The kind of courage that gets up at 5 a.m. to work when no one's watching. The kind that says no to distractions and yes to responsibility, not for praise, but for purpose. This courage is built in private, before the world notices, before there's a crowd, before there's applause. You step forward by declaring your mission to yourself. You write it down. You get honest. You say, this is what I will do. And then you move, without asking, without waiting, without needing others to understand it, because you understand it, and that's enough. There's something powerful about quiet commitment. It builds momentum beneath the surface. It doesn't beg for validation. It earns it. And when the fruits of that private labor finally emerge, the world watches in awe, forgetting that it all began in silence. Picture a man alone in his barn. He hammers nails into wood. There are no investors, no customers, no press, just sawdust and sweat. But he keeps building, day after day. While others laugh or wait for the market to be right, he stays at it. Not because someone told him to, but because he decided to. And one day the barn becomes a business, the business becomes a name, the name becomes a legacy. This is how real things are built. In stillness, in solitude, in secret, not with applause, but with action. Not with external permission, but with internal decision. And the hard truth is this, if you're waiting for someone to give you the green light, you've already surrendered your power. because no one else can hand you your mission. No one else can unlock your future. That is your job. And it begins the moment you stop waiting and start walking. Ask yourself, what dream have you delayed because you didn't feel ready? What project sits untouched because you're afraid it might fail? What idea have you abandoned because the world didn't immediately cheer for it? Now flip the question. What might you become if you gave yourself the green light? If you stopped stalling, if you stopped rehearsing and just began, not perfectly, not completely, just started, one step, one decision, one act of courage at a time. Your life is not waiting on the world, it's waiting on you. This isn't about recklessness, it's about responsibility. The responsibility to move even when the outcome is unclear, to build even when no one is watching, to believe in your calling even when the crowd is silent. That's leadership. That's manhood. That's ownership. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need 1,000 followers or a fancy degree. You need conviction, and you need it now. Stop hiding behind preparation. Stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. They never will be. But the moment you act, you begin to shape those conditions. You don't wait for momentum, you create it. Write the first page, make the first call, lift the first weight, build the first piece, risk the first rejection. These are not small things, these are everything. Because they are the proof that you've stopped waiting and started becoming. You may not see results right away. That's fine, it's not about speed. It's about signal. Every action sends a signal to your mind, to your soul. I am in motion. I am no longer stuck. And that signal compounds. It creates strength, focus, belief. So if you've been waiting for the sign, here it is. You are the sign. Your courage is the signal. Your commitment is the green light. You don't need permission. You need to move quietly, decisively, faithfully. And one day, after the long hours, after the lonely reps, after the silent beginnings, they'll ask how you did it, and you'll know the answer. You stopped waiting, and you started building. The journey doesn't reward those who start fast. It rewards those who never stop. Keep showing up. Keep sharpening your edge. Keep walking forward, even when the path is quiet. Because consistency isn't just a habit. It's a weapon. Use it daily, and you won't just win once. You'll win forever.